Every time as an artist, I start to create a picture with God, I learn so much through the process of making the picture. And with this picture, with the added excitement of videoing it for you to see, I have had to learn so much just to get to this point. I've written a lot of it down so that I can try and remember to share it with you, because God is an amazing God. And if He can help me to be prepared to do a video, He can do anything. So if you are someone who gets frustrated with yourself and thinks, I can never change, don't worry, you don't need to. You just need to give God permission and He can change you and He can do wonderful, amazing things through you. So at the start of this season of lockdown, the first Sunday when we could not go to church, I was sat in bed talking to God and wondering how this season was going to turn out, what was going to happen. And God said to me, do not worry about this season, do not be fearful, because in this season, I am going to create new life. New life is created in intimate moments. When you make a baby, you do it in private, just two people in private. To birth that baby, you have help and support from the community. To grow that child, you have help and support from the whole church. But to make it, to create it, you need an intimate moment. And God said, I want to have intimate moments with all of my family, with all of my church. And in those moments, I'm going to create new life. And this season, where you can't be together, I want you to spend time with each other. And I want you to create new life. I want you to spend time not with each other. I want you to spend time with me. And I want you to be intimate with me. And I want to create new life in you. New life that can be birthed when you get back together. New life that can be grown as a family. But in order to create that new life, my people need to spend time, just me and them, in intimacy. So when Yinka asked me to create this picture, I thought and said, okay, God, that's what you've given me for this season. So that's what the picture needs to be about. And I then had no clue how that was going to look on the canvas, because I felt like the church was not quite ready for a picture of a baby being created in private. I thought that would not be suitable. So I said to God, how are we going to represent this on a canvas that can be shown to everybody? And I came up with the first idea. So I started sketching, and having talked to God, I came up with an idea of somebody holding out their heart and allowing God to come in and touch their heart. The very centre of their being was going to be shown, and God was going to be allowed to change their heart. And in the changing of that heart, I was planning to have new life springing out from the heart. And I went upstairs thinking, quite pleased with myself that I had thought of this idea and this is how it's going to work. And in my joy, I started dancing around in my bedroom with God, praising God in a dance. And in that moment, God said, it's not the heart. This picture is going to be about dancing and the intimacy of dancing. And actually, in creating and working out the composition of this picture and what it's going to be made of and how it's going to look, has been a dance between me and God. Me following His lead, me listening to the whispers. He can whisper in my ear because we're close up together, and me trying to respond, which is not always easy. And in it, I've learned that the dance can be a very close, smoochy dance with God, or it can be a wild, extravagant, skipping around the room like a Scottish reel dance with God. And in all of it, we are learning and we are intimate and we've got eye contact with God and he's able to give stuff to us in each moment. So my ideas moved on about having a man and a woman dancing together, the woman being me and the man being God. And as I was sketching that, God drew my attention to the intertwined fingers. Sorry, I get emotional, but I think it's everything that God has shown me that is important. His Spirit makes me emotional about. So here, the intertwined fingers, he's got us. He's holding us. We've got that point of contact. And the other thing he showed to me was the hand on the back. So he's holding us close. He's got our back. And that I knew had to be a focus of this picture. So I have drawn a sketch of that. Which is going to become the centre of this picture. But not the whole of this picture. Because then, as I was thinking with God, he started to show me, and these sketches probably won't look like very much, but how we could portray the dance with not all the detail of the figures, but the figures moving. And that moved on through various different sketches until, in this one, you probably can't see, but God was showing me that in these curves, these movements that I'm going to try and create in the picture, that is where the new life is going to flow out of, and somehow we're going to create that image of new life. And then as I was trying to sketch that out on the big canvas to see the scale of it, God suddenly said to me, but hang on a minute, let's put you and I in the centre of this. Our relationship with God is in the centre of everything we do. The dance, lovely, new life is going to come from it. But for God, the most important thing is our relationship with him. And that needs to be at the centre of our lives. That doesn't need to be the periphery with what we do as the centre. The relationship, you and him, needs to be the centre. And then what you do, the ministries, what comes out of it is the periphery. And in this season, God has been teaching me a lot about me and him, who I am, who I can be in him, who he created me to be in him. And I can't be all of me without him. So this is going to be big in the centre of the picture when it gets started, because that is big. That is the important bit God wants to talk to us about. Let me just check. Yeah, so the dance has taken time. Getting to this point has taken time. Getting to know God takes time. We need to linger in his company. We need to not be rushing around to do, but to sit and to be who God created us to be. And the fact that I'm doing this, recording this, without an audience here, just me talking to myself, talking into a camera, that's another thing God is teaching me in this season. I need to learn to be who he has created me to be, without living on the reactions of other people. I can't be who God made me to be if I'm waiting to see how people respond to what I'm doing and getting confirmation and affirmation from their responses. I need to be solid and know that I'm stood on God and who he has said I am. And I need to not worry about people's responses, because quite often people's responses come out of their brokenness and their brokenness. I was thinking of God showed me Jesus. He knew who he was. He was rooted in the Father. He did not worry when the Sadducees and the Pharisees, the people in control and in charge at that time, reacted badly. He knew they were reacting out of their brokenness, out of their hurt. And Jesus knew he had to just listen to the Father and do what he says. So in this moment, in this creation of this picture, doing it to a video is a symbol of me doing what God has shown me without knowing how you're going to react to it, without an affirmation from you, just an affirmation from Him. And anyway, if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter. I'm doing this for God. And how you respond to it is not significant in that relationship. God will be pleased because I've stepped up to do it. And then you will react to it in your brokenness. And hopefully God can use it to teach you in your brokenness and help you on your journey too. So I am going to start the picture. And stepping up to the canvas is always a tricky thing because it's so big and so wide. And there was always a feeling that it could just go wrong. And this canvas, particularly to do it to you, to this camera, if it goes wrong, I only have the one canvas. So we will have to go with whatever happens next and work through it. So I do apologise. I have to thank God for this canvas because before I even knew that I needed it, He had provided it. I was shopping in Hobbycraft. I'd gone looking for something else completely, and as often happens in Hobbycraft, I walked through the door and saw big canvases half price. And that always catches my eye. And I thought, okay, God, I would like one of those. Unfortunately, I'd gone shopping in my Mini, and there was no way a metre plus canvas was going to fit inside my Mini. So I was left in a mood. And I went upstairs and found what I had come to the shop for. And as I was coming back down to pay, my husband rang. And he had gone off on a job, was suddenly free, and was out in his van. So God sent my husband to Hobbycraft to buy this canvas before I even needed it. And now it is ready to be painted upon. Now, what I've learned when I'm painting with God is that I have an idea. He gives me some of the idea, but sometimes these things change. What I always like to do when we're starting to paint is to get rid of the whiteness on the canvas and to cover it with a colour. And quite often I step up to the canvas and I have an idea what that colour is in my head. And then equally as often, God says, and in fact, it's just happened. I've picked up the blue paint and God said, underlying this, we're going to put a layer of pink. Pink representing my love, underlying everything we do, underlying our relationship is going to be pink love of God. So excuse me for a minute, I'm going to dilute this acrylic massively so it covers and just makes a thin layer on the canvas. Oops. There's something very satisfying about covering a canvas with paint. And I love the way that when you make the paint really thin, it starts to make runs and things on the canvas. And hopefully those will be useful in the picture later on. Now, the sad thing about this is we're now going to have to wait and watch paint dry because I cannot do anything else until that layer of paint has dried a little bit. So I have just sat and had a cup of coffee and watched that paint dry and watched as the pink has run down the screen. And God has just spoken to me about his love pouring down, dripping down out of heaven for us. And that we've got to be prepared to accept it, to hold our hands out, to grab it, to stand under it in his love. So even in that, just the paint running, God can speak, God can work. Now I am going to add a layer of blue over the top of this. Some of the paint has dried, some of the paint is still a bit wet, and we will see what effect this has. But I love the way that, because I'm partnering with God and saying, okay, Holy Spirit, you have a say in this picture. His Spirit can work in the materials, in the media, and create something that I'm not quite expecting, maybe. So let's add some blue on. And I'm going to put some water into that paint to encourage it to run down the canvas. And then the blue paint becomes quite translucent and you can see the pink shining through. So you can see God's love is underpinning everything we do. It's shining through whatever's happening. that is doing something amazing that I couldn't have planned. And I'm trusting that that will be the basis for what God is planning for this picture. I'm going to leave that to dry now and then come back to it when it's dry and start adding on the dancing figures.